Before we set sail into the captivating world of John Ward, the enigmatic pirate who reshaped the seas, I invite you to support this voyage by liking the video. Your encouragement fuels the adventure ahead. Now, let's unfurl the sails and dive deep into a tale as ancient as the ocean itself. Piracy's roots run as deep as the first ships ever cut through water, entwined closely with the grim commerce of slavery. From the 1500s to the 1800s, over 1 million Europeans, men, women, and children alike, from nations as varied as France, Spain, Italy, England, Ireland, Iceland, Norway, and Denmark were seized by Muslim corsairs and sold openly in North African slave markets. These Barbary pirates thrived on a white slave trade that propelled their cities' growth and extended their empires, becoming formidable by the 17th century. The secret behind their rising power lay in the influence of a remarkable Englishman who became a mercenary, converted his faith, and revolutionized the pirates' capabilities. Known as John Ward, or by his nicknames Jack Ward and Birdie, he is the very figure that inspired the famed fictional Captain Jack Sparrow. Born around 1553 in the coastal town of Faversham, Kent, Ward's maritime journey began humbly as a boy fisherman before he joined the ranks of privateers during Queen Elizabeth I's war against Spain in 1588. Alongside legendary figures like Sir John Hawkins and Sir Francis Drake, dubbed the Queen's Sea Dogs, Ward helped cripple Spanish shipping and claimed valuable treasure and slaves. These privateers sailed under the Crown's letter of marque, which legally sanctioned their raids on enemy vessels, provided they shared spoils with the monarchy. However, peace with Spain declared in 1604 by James I left many such men unemployed and restless. Ward himself was later forcibly conscripted onto the king's ship Lion's Whelp, an act akin to kidnapping that he surely found bitter. In response, he led a mutiny with about 30 men near Plymouth, commandeered the 25-ton vessel, and headed to the Isle of Wight, where he was democratically elected captain, a rare example of egalitarian choice in a monarchical age. Though traditional piracy was tolerated so long as English ships remained untouched, Ward's theft branded him an outlaw, making capture a death sentence. His crew seized several small ships, and it was reportedly in a tavern that Ward's resolve to embrace piracy fully was sealed. Andrew Barker, a captive of Ward's, recorded a vivid account of Ward's cynical view of the world as scurvy, lamenting their meager fare of salt beef and the lack of grain ashore. Yet, amidst hardship, Ward urged his crew to revel and be merry, plotting to plunder their pursuers' bags under cover of night. The pirates then seized the Violet off the Isle of Wight, a ship rumored to hold the wealth of Roman Catholic refugees, though it proved bare. Undeterred, Ward added it to his fleet and captured a larger French vessel, but trouble loomed. To evade the English Navy hunting mutineers, Ward's crew began raiding throughout the Mediterranean, from southern France, Spain, Sardinia, and Sicily to the shores of Italy, Algiers, and Morocco. In 1605, Ward arrived in Tunis under Ottoman dominion, offering his services to the Bey of Tunis through an alliance with Uthman Bey, a local military leader who granted Ward sanctuary and a share of plundered goods. Ward's fleet roamed widely, forced to raid continually for food and water to sustain themselves. His leadership was precarious. Unsuccessful captains risked removal by crew vote. Ward resembled a Robin Hood figure of the seas, an enigmatic pirate operating from the mouth of the Cebu River, preying on Mediterranean commerce. Ward may have hoped for clemency from King James I, reportedly sparing English vessels while targeting Catholic ships, a reflection of religious and political tensions. Alongside Simon Danziger, Ward introduced Barbary pirates to the superior square-rigged ships of northern Europe, enhancing their naval power. Yet when his pardon was denied, Ward escalated his operations, no longer sparing any vessel. Upon approaching Algiers, several crew members were arrested due to prior English assaults on the city by Richard Giffard, forcing Ward to seek refuge instead in Sale, Morocco. There, in 1605, fellow English and Dutch sailors such as Richard Bishop and Anthony Johnson bolstered his ranks, strengthening his formidable pirate force. In the summer of 1606, Ward seized a ship named Adal in the Strait of Gibraltar, which was reportedly transporting Catholic slaves, and by August he secured permission from Othman Bey to make Tunis his operational base. Othman Bey, also known as Kara Osman Bey, was the Janissary Corps commander and military governor in Tunis. Their pact allowed Othman Bey the first choice of all plunder, receiving up to 10% of the spoils, effectively granting him a protected harbor. By early November 1606, Ward captured the English merchant vessel John Baptist, led by Captain John Key, and renamed it Little John, after the English folk hero. This addition strengthened his fleet, enabling the capture of numerous ships from different European nations. Ward's other officers thrived as well, with his chief deputy William Graves capturing a small English merchantman, the York Bonaventure, under Captain Andrew Barker. This haul rivaled his capture of two valuable Venetian ships, Ruby, taken on November 16, 1606, and Criminati, seized on January 28, 1607. By then, Ward controlled at least 4 vessels, including the 400-ton Dutch 32-gun ship he had renamed Gift, alongside Little John, Ruby, and Criminati, with all merchant ships armed with cannons. Ward petitioned James I for a royal pardon, which was denied because Venice threatened war after his attacks on their fleet, compelling Ward to return reluctantly to Tunis. Keeping his promise, Othman Bey offered Ward protection. In accepting this and embracing his new environment, Ward and his crew converted to Islam, with Ward taking the name Yusuf Reis and the nickname Chakur or Shigur, inspired by his private use acts. To avoid paying taxes and assimilate fully, Ward's swift conversion transformed him into one of the most effective Mediterranean corsairs. His new faith and loyalty enraged the English, branding him a traitor and apostate. However, all attempts to capture him failed. What provoked the English most was news that Ward had trained his Barbary pirate allies in English naval gunnery and seamanship, adapting their rigging for superior maneuverability even in light or turbulent winds without losing offensive capability. Operating out of Tunis, Ward launched raids on Venetian, Spanish, and Christian merchant shipping, amassing great wealth and notoriety. His most infamous victory occurred on April 26, 1607, when he captured the enormous Venetian galleon Riniera e Soderini, weighing between 1,400 and 1,500 tons and laden with gold, silk, and valuables, as it sailed between Cyprus and Turkey. Though larger and better armed, the Italian vessel was outmatched by Ward's crew's gunnery skill and boarding experience. The battle lasted 3 hours. The Riniera e Soderini, hampered by its size and light winds, could not land effective hits. Ward's ships pierced her bulwark 5 times and set bales of hay inside aflame. When ordered to board, the Venetian crew armed themselves and resisted but suffered casualties from a precise volley of chainshot from Ruby. The ship's carpenter confronted his captain, demanding surrender or facing mutiny. The captain yielded, and Ward took the ship without further conflict. Andrew Barker assessed the cargo's worth at least £2 million, inciting the Venetian ambassador in London to warn the Privy Council that Venice was nearing war with England over Ward's piracy. The ambassador, Secretary Espogiani, declared Ward the greatest scoundrel ever to sail from England, having refitted the Soderini as a Burton with 40 bronze guns on the lower deck and 20 on the upper. Ward gifted his old ship to Captain Graves. Together, they and 4 others formed a formidable fleet of 6 fighting vessels. The English government disputed the cargo's value, estimating it at £500,000, but the Venetian ambassador confirmed Ward's retrofitting of the Soderini and warned that he would be strongly opposed if he entered their waters. By early 1607, Ward had fully rearmed Gift, Little John, Ruby, and Criminati. In June 1607, Ward upgraded the Riniera e Soderini into a powerful warship by installing at least 20 new gun ports to accommodate 60 additional brass cannons, as reported by Venetian sources. Ward's training extended to Barbary pirates, who in 1607 raided the Faroe Islands, capturing and enslaving numerous people. However, their desire for more slaves pushed Ward to expand his fleet with new hull designs and rigging suited for these distant expeditions. Early in 1608, he set sail again. By March, rumors spread that a ship wrecked off Greece was the Riniera e Soderini, signaling Ward's death. Ward, aboard Gift, had ventured into the Adriatic Sea, where a fierce storm scattered his fleet. He found only the 200-ton Ruby intact before moving on to the eastern Mediterranean. Aquileia, now El Dorai, served as an interim port. During this time, he married an Italian woman believed to be a former slave while maintaining financial support for his English wife. Around 1612, John Ward retired from his piratical career and established a school to instruct aspiring Barbary corsairs in the arts of gunnery and navigation. For centuries, Barbary pirates had primarily relied on one or multiple triangular sails, which provided speed and consistent tailwinds but were inefficient when tacking against the wind. Ward introduced them to improved rigging techniques that allowed ships to harness any wind direction effectively by incorporating the jib, topsail, and gallant sails. He also imparted advanced gunnery tactics, including the technique of skimming cannonballs across the water's surface, similar to skipping stones, to avoid shots soaring over targets and to ensure they made impact. Ward further educated his pupils in celestial navigation, well ahead of the sextant's invention, teaching them how to create navigation charts and how to measure shallow water depths beneath their hulls. These innovations enabled corsairs to sail close to shore safely, minimizing the risk of grounding while deploying raiding parties. More importantly, they allowed these Muslim pirates to venture into open waters without staying close to coasts where they might be detected. Ward's total fortune remains unknown but was likely substantial. Unlike many pirates, Ward chose to settle, purchasing a grand palace in Tunis, marrying locally and living in considerable comfort. He retained control of his private navy, shared spoils with the Bey, and lived out his remaining years quietly until his death in 1622, possibly due to a plague outbreak. His legacy persisted beyond his death. The Barbary pirates widely adopted his techniques, which fueled a sharp rise in their raids into Western and Northern Europe, primarily to capture slaves. In August 1625, they raided Mounts Bay in Cornwall, England, kidnapping 60 villagers to enslave. The following year, attacks on St. Cavern and Cornish fishing boats increased, with crews captured and vessels abandoned. Fear grew as some 60 Barbary warships prowled Devon and Cornwall's coasts, attacking nearly daily. In 1627, these corsairs launched their initial raid on Iceland, using Ward's methods. The assault massacred dozens and abducted over 400 people, mostly women, to be sold into slavery in Sale and Algiers. The daring 6,000-mile round trip underscored Ward's profound influence. On June 20, 1631, the Irish village of Baltimore was attacked by Barbary pirates led by Murad Rees the Younger, a Dutch-born corsair who had converted to Islam after being enslaved. 2 years later, Dunmorgan, Ireland, was similarly attacked, with approximately 50 people captured, though total numbers remain uncertain. Combined estimates for kidnappings from these raids range between 107 and 237, with most taken to Algiers slave markets. Many captives were condemned to life as galley slaves, sex slaves, concubines, or laborers, with only a few ever returning to Ireland. One quickly ransomed and 2 others released in 1646. Most were never heard from again. Alarmed by the scale of captivity, the English Parliament formed the Committee for Algiers in December 1640 to organize ransom efforts. At that time, 3,000 to 5,000 English captives were held in Algiers alone. Coastal charities also raised funds to free enslaved villagers. Some families completely vanished. In 1645, Barbary pirates abducted 240 men, women, and children from Cornwall's coast. The following year, Parliament dispatched Edmund Casson to negotiate ransom payments in Algiers. Casson paid an average of £30 per man, with women's ransoms more costly, freeing roughly 250 captives before running out of funds. He spent his final 8 years attempting to secure freedom for 400 more English prisoners. By the 1650s, frequent corsair attacks threatened England's fishing industry, causing reluctance among fishermen to venture out and leaving coastal communities vulnerable. In response, multiple nations temporarily set aside differences to combat the threat. In 1675, Sir John Narborough led a Royal Navy squadron that bombarded Tunis and forced a peace treaty. A similar accord was reached with Tripoli. However, peace was short-lived. The extensive reach of Barbary pirates led British, French, and Spanish naval forces to launch repeated attacks on Algiers, briefly curbing raids. Ultimately, the United States fought 2 wars against North African Barbary states, decisively disrupting the slave trade. Even Denmark and Norway suffered, including the Faroe Islands, which endured slave raids from the 16th to the 18th centuries. The most infamous Faroe Islands raid was the 1629 slave raid of Suðuroy, where 30 people were seized and never returned. The Danish-Algerian War, 1769 to 1722, involving Denmark, Norway, and Algiers, partly resulted from piracy targeting Danish and Norwegian ships and enslaving their crews. Conversely, France largely escaped these attacks due to its Franco-Ottoman alliance from 1536 to 1798. The Ottoman sultans, influencing North African Muslims, generally refrained from attacking French coasts or shipping, though exceptions occurred. The definitive end came during the First Barbary War 1801 to 1805, prompted by the capture and enslavement of American sailors and ships such as the frigate USS Philadelphia, a prized capture for the pirates. The conflict began when Americans refused to pay tribute to the Barbary rulers of North Africa, Algiers, Tunis, Morocco, and Tripoli. President Thomas Jefferson had reached his limit with the piracy problem. In 1804, a bold raid led by Stephen Decatur destroyed the USS Philadelphia, an event that also involved U.S. Marines and mercenaries advancing from Egypt to capture Tripoli. For more on this, see our video detailing the white slave trade and Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon's mission. This decisive action halted the Barbary pirates' expansion into northern Europe and ended attacks on American vessels following a peace treaty. It also freed numerous American and European captives, mostly held for ransom. The Second Barbary War, fought from 1815 to 1816, concluded after joint British and Dutch assaults in 1816, which liberated over 4,000 Christian slaves and effectively dismantled the Barbary pirate threat. In essence, John Ward was the architect of the Barbary maritime slave trade, significantly enhancing their operational reach. Unlike many pirates who met violent ends, Ward lived long, preserved his fortune, and avoided the typical pirate fate. Equally adept at diplomacy as at naval warfare, his story remains enigmatic and incomplete. While most notorious pirates met death by hanging or perished at sea, Ward retired comfortably with wealth and status, yet few today are aware of his legacy. He transformed himself from an impoverished, illiterate fisherman and low-ranking English sailor into a formidable Muslim corsair. Reports say he became literate in multiple languages including Arabic. Contemporary scholars speculate that Ward inspired the character of Captain Jack Sparrow. He is also thought to have influenced pirate tales by Daniel Defoe and Lord Byron. But Ward was more than a mere pirate. He was a master of adaptation, navigating between faiths, politics, and power during a perilous era when survival was rare on the waves. And remarkably, he achieved what no pirate was expected to. He triumphed. What do you think about John Ward's incredible journey, from humble fisherman to powerful corsair, and the lasting impact he had on history? How would you navigate a world full of challenges and redefine your destiny like he did? If this story inspired you, why not like and share this video to spread the adventure? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more captivating tales that challenge what you thought you knew about history. Your support keeps these stories alive, so what will you do next?